Take a fish from water, it's not a fish anymore. Fish is part of water. He can only be alive in his element. Take air from a man, he is not a man any longer. He is part of it. We all take it in, we all breathe it out. It changes us, and we change it. Where is mine or thine? Where is greed or glory? We search so far, it is so near. When we meet it, we shiver and bless it, and we are blessed. We are blessed to discover something so good, so real, could be found in this life. Now, Louise March was not a Buddhist. She was a student of George Gurdjieff. I never met her. She was my teacher's teacher. He wasn't a Buddhist either, and I guess I'm not. But I know that some of you are, probably most of you. So I want to point out that the first two stanzas of this poem express an idea that runs throughout Buddhism and is really an essential part of it. And that is what we call dependent co-origination. Are some of you familiar with that term? If you are, raise your hand. All right. Dependent co-origination simply means what Louise is saying it means. You take a fish from water and there's not a fish anymore. The fish and the water have to be there together. If there's no water, there's no fish. And if there's no fish, perhaps the water would be there, but it wouldn't be an ocean. The ocean and the fish depend on one another. In the same way, as I sit here speaking, I depend on you to be listening. If you're not listening, my speaking goes nowhere. It doesn't really exist. This is very important to understand. We bring each other into being, and we bring the world into being in each moment. I hope to get into that a bit. Speak louder. Okay. I hope to get into that a bit more deeply as we progress here, but I'm going to read Louise's poem one more time. Take a fish from water, it is not a fish anymore. Fish is part of water. He can only be alive in his element. It's okay. Take air from a man, he is not a man any longer. Air is his element. He is part of it. We all take it in and we all breathe it out. It changes us and we change it. Where is mine or thine? Where is greed or glory? We search so far. It is so near. When we meet it, we shiver and bless it. When we meet it, we shiver and bless it. And we are blessed. We are blessed to discover something so good, so real, could be found in this life. That's really beautiful. We are blessed to find that something so real and so good can be found in this life, not some subsequent reincarnation, if you believe in that stuff, but here and now, in this room. If we understand what Louise is saying, here and now is the only time to discover something real and good. If we put this off, it never comes. This is very important to understand because sometimes the idea of a path, a spiritual path, which is not really a bad idea, can be misunderstood so that what needs to be realized here and now, and always here and now, is just put off until after my meditation practice gets a little better, or maybe tomorrow when I'm not so angry, or whatever, yeah? This is a big mistake. It's here and now. It's the only now there is. Now, when Robert asked me to do this, I said yes immediately without really thinking about it. That's just me. I've had this practice actually for the last 25 years of saying yes to everything, unless there's just an immediate red flag. But as long as there's not an immediate red flag, I don't think about it. If you invite me to dinner, I just say yes. It's worked out so far. So I said yes without really thinking about it, but then I started to think about it. And I thought, Robert is a great teacher. He teaches everywhere, all over the world. He's been doing this for years, and I haven't. So what do I have to teach? Not only that, Robert has a tradition to teach. He's a Buddhist, and he can rely on, well, I don't know how many pages there are in the Buddhist canon and the Pali canon, thousands. And he could open the book to any one of those and simply teach that. Seems easy. You just read the book and teach it. Robert's not like that. He makes everything personal, which is why he's such a great teacher. But I cannot rely on that. I have no canon. My teacher was a man by the name of Walter Chappell, and he was Louise March's student. Or perhaps it's better to say that Louise mentored him, because I can't really say that I was Walter's student. It was more that he was my mentor, and I learned what I could from him. So this is what Walter had to say. Actually, Walter only taught me two things. The first thing he taught me was that words can accomplish nothing. The only thing that can save you in this life is your own intention. There isn't anything else. You must have intention. If you don't have an intention, a real intention, that can bring you into an emotional state, it doesn't matter what I say or what you read or what any teacher says. You're not going to move even this far. You feel better about yourself after attending a satsang or a dharma talk, or you read a nice book and it tells you you're perfect. And that feels great for a day or two, and then it wears off, yeah? So you must bring intention to this work, otherwise nothing can happen. So Walter taught me that. You bring your intention. You have to know what your intention is. So let's now take another minute. We'll all close our eyes, and each one of us will attempt as best we can to discover what our intention is for the next hour and a half. Please do this in a serious way. It will help. Now, my intention is a very serious one. I don't know if I'm up to it or not, so I ask you to bear with me, please. But the last time I was here, Robert coaxed out of me a story about my awakening 25 years ago. And I say coaxed because I'm getting really tired of that story. The fact is that the story's not true. And no story is true, and the more times it's repeated, the less true it is. We all know this, and yet we continue telling stories. And we tell ourselves stories all the time, constantly. Well, I'm not willing to do that. So I'm not willing to say I had this awakening 25 years ago. I'm done with that story. That's the last time I'm ever going to tell that story. Never again. I mean this. What happened to me 25 years ago was not that I awakened, but that I understood something. I understood something that had been said to me by Walter. And now I'm going to share that with you, because it's very simple. And if you have the intention to try to understand what's being said here, and I know some of you really do, I can see that when I'm looking in your eyes. This is what Walter taught me. This is what he said. Discovery is unrepeatable. Being here, always see, creates this presence in a living stream of energy. I'm going to repeat it. Although he said discovery is unrepeatable, I will repeat what he said. Discovery is unrepeatable. Being here, always see, creates this presence in a living stream of energy. Okay. Now, one day I suddenly understood that. Before then it was good words, and they were good words, but I didn't get it. And then one day I got it. Now, let me try to tell you what that means in my understanding. It means that no matter what the Buddha discovered, it's nothing to you. That discovery is unrepeatable. You can read about it, you can hear about it, you can hear that there's an Eightfold Noble Path and all this jazz, and you can even try to walk that path, but you cannot discover what the Buddha discovered. His discovery is unrepeatable. Let's please try to understand that, because some of us are Buddhists. And I mean no disrespect for Buddhism. I like Buddhism. I've read some of it. I enjoy it. It's great. But it's a lie in the same way that that story that Robert Hall coaxed out of me is a lie. Each time you repeat it, it becomes less true. So this story that there was this guy who discovered something 2,500 years ago and wrote it all down, and now all you have to do is follow the yellow brick road, and now you wake up and become a Buddha. Please, don't believe it. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. It's not like that. Walter was a great mentor to me. He spent hundreds of hours sitting on the floor with me in meditation, in instruction, in discourse. We suffered together. He was a great guy. But I don't know what he knew. How could I? How could I possibly know what he knew? I didn't grow up in his body. I didn't grow up in his family. I don't know what he had to suffer. You don't know who I am. You see me, yes? What do you actually see? A face, hands, and the rest is my clothes. You hear my voice. That's all you know. You can't see my feelings. You can't see my thoughts. You can't feel my emotions. Right? Obvious, yes? I'm in the same boat. I don't mean regarding you, I mean regarding myself. I can't see my own face, so you're one up on me there. You can't see my hands. And I am aware of some of my emotions, maybe the top layer, and some of my thoughts, the ones that are conscious. The rest is a mystery to me. What you call Robert, I don't know what it is. Robert Hall was a physician, so he knows what the inside of the body looks like. I've never seen one. I have no idea. I just take it on faith that there's organs in here. I've seen photographs, so I guess I have them too. But I don't know what they are. I've never seen them. I don't know myself. You don't know me, and I don't know me. Yet we walk around here knowing who we are all the time. I'm this and that. You've just insulted me. You don't know what I am. I said that. It's very important to understand this. I don't know who I am, and I never will. Yes? Am I getting this across to you? Tell me, yes or no? Yes. I don't do this, so. No, seriously, this is my first shot. Okay? I'm just being very honest with you. I'm not a spiritual teacher. I'm someone who had a profound experience, and I'm, said I wasn't going to speak about that. We get into these habits, and then that's the story, and it just goes around and around and around and around. We just keep repeating this lie. I'm trying to share with you something that I have come to understand. Let's put it that way. It's much better. And I want to share it with you because for me, it's what Louise March was referring to when she said, and we are blessed and we're amazed to find that something so true and so good could be found in this life. We're touched by that. See? Well, I am someone who did find something like that, and I continue to find it. And that's why I'm sitting here. If I can share that with if one person in this room I could share that with, I would be thrilled. I would think this day really went perfectly. That would be great. That would really be great. Be heartwarming. So I agreed to do this. I then began to have second thoughts. I said, wait a minute, I have no tradition to teach. My teacher wasn't really a teacher. He was a mentor. He didn't have a tradition to teach either. He didn't give me the secrets of the universe. He didn't teach me about Buddhist psychology, the 5 skandhas and all this stuff. He didn't have any of that to refer to. All he really taught me was that the only thing that could save Robert was to have a true intention and just stick to it. Just have one intention and stick to it. And you make that intention into an emotional state. That's how we do this work. You find out what your intention is. It's like when you're young and you fall in love. You have this one intention. I want to see her again. Without her or him or whatever the case may be, life is useless. So you put everything into that intention. And if you're lucky, you score. Well, now we want to score in a different way. So we have to have an intention to really hear what is being said. I want you to really hear it, not because Robert the Great is saying it, but because I want to share it with you. It's not mine. And it can't become yours. So what do I mean by create an intention? It's very simple. You have to first stop the chaos in your own mind. You have to see that chaos. Maybe you saw some of it when you sat here silently for 5 minutes. Maybe you notice it now. Bring it to a stop. Just relax. It doesn't need to be there. It doesn't mean you make it go away. It's still there. Just let it be what it is. Second thing is, don't judge what I'm saying. Don't reply to it. Don't quarrel with it. Just hear it. Third thing is, don't translate it into your everyday language. If you do that, it will be the same as if it went in one ear and right out the other. You just explain it away. That's not what this is about. Not at all. This is about actually hearing something for the first time, something that you have never heard before. And this is your last chance, because I'm not going to ever be able to repeat this. Discovery is unrepeatable. Being here, all we see creates creates this presence in living a stream of energy. I turned 67 years old last year. Where's my life? Where is it? All those things happened. They did happen, but they happened as a happening. I can't get it back. I can't touch it. There are photographs, but the photographs aren't my life. They're just paper. I can't go back and have any of that again. It's once upon a once. Now really feel that. If you do, this is how we create this emotional state of listening and making use of this Dharma talk. This moment is precious. This moment is precious. It's precious because as soon as it arises, it disappears. And we can't ever get it back again. It has to be touched now or never. This is true of every moment in our lives. I had a cup of coffee this morning. It was great. I enjoyed it. But I can't have that coffee now. It's over. Yeah, I can have another coffee, but it won't be the same coffee. Nothing is ever the same. Nothing is ever the same. This is once upon a once. You are here now. And this is the only now there is. Back in October, I had just recovered from one of these chest things that seems to last down here for maybe a month or two. The doctors don't know what it is, and then you start to feel better. So I started to feel better. So Katanya and I drove down to Cabo San Lucas. We got some great groceries and a couple of bottles of wine. And the idea was, we'll go home and cocoon for 2 or 3 days. We'll party. We'll make some great food. We'll drink the wine, watch a bunch of movies, maybe even fool around a little, you know. Okay, so we get home. I put the vegetables in the sink, turn on the water, and now I'm putting the rest of the stuff, the canned stuff, on the shelf. Well, this behind my back, the water fills the sink and overflows onto the concrete floor. It's a Toledo floor. It's polished concrete floor. Well, I notice it, so I go running for the sink to turn it off. My feet go out from under me on this floor, and I said, oh shit. And forgive the language, there was one complaint from the time that I was here last. You know, my mind is very strange. It's like a mirror. Whatever it reflects, I can't help it. I mean that. So I say, oh, shit. I'm falling. I don't really remember hitting the back of my head, but when I awakened, there was blood on the back of my head. And I was standing at the sink, apparently having turned off the water while I was unconscious. Well, there goes the party. There wasn't going to be any celebration after that. And frankly, several months later, I'm just about okay. In fact, I might have to read from my notes a little later. So far, so good. We don't like this idea that events control our lives. But it's true. It's true for all of us. We're subject to events. We're not the decider of what happens next. None of us is. If you're more or less young and in good health, it may seem that way because, you're pretty much the same every day. When you start to get a little older and you start to see the signs of decay, you're going to understand, if you haven't until that point, that you are entirely subject to events. And the events are entirely out of your control. Yeah, you can brush your teeth and take vitamins and stuff. Big deal, right? That's the real situation. That's what's called impermanence. It's another Buddhist idea. You can't hold on to anything. You can make your plans. We'll have a big party this weekend, drink some wine, make some good food, watch the TV, all that. Kick back. Then you fall on your head and you're in a different world. That's an emergency. Now you have to get neurological exams and a CAT scan instead of having a party. That is true for all of us. And that's what makes this moment so precious, as I say. I don't see anyone here on the way to the emergency room at the moment. That could happen at any moment. But right now, we're all here. We're all more or less awake. This is the moment to really get it. And that's how we create an emotional state. We understand, what would it be like if some of this got taken away? Then where would I be? And so, thank you. And so, I urge you, while I'm still breathing well enough to speak, and you're all still breathing well enough to listen, to stop the chaos in your mind. Don't translate what I'm saying. Don't quarrel with it, and don't judge it. That's what we call non-judgmental awareness. Just hear it. Later you'll judge it if you want to. You'll write the review later. Go have lunch and talk about Robert Saltzman. How was it? Write the review. But don't do that now. That's all I'm asking you in this regard. Yes? Okay. Now I want to... Oh no, let me go back to that. So Robert presented me with this situation. I said yes. And now I'm in a world of hurt. Because what am I going to teach? I'm serious. I don't know. I have no idea. So then, on last Tuesday, I decided, I know, I want to teach something that a Buddhist would understand, and yet it's true for me. What is that? Is there an intersection between Robert Saltzman and Buddhism? I'm thinking, Eightfold Noble Path? Nope. Four Noble Truths? I don't buy it. I'll get into that a little later if you like, but that's not me. And, Robert and I used to butt heads just on this because I would tell him, no, I don't really buy that. Okay. Path? No, I'm not too sure if there's a path from here to here. I'm not too sure if there is a path from here to here. I don't know if I want to go around the mulberry bush and chant and say prayers or correct my behavior and learn a bunch of words out of a book and then eventually just come back to being where I am right now. I don't know if that's really helpful. Robert actually was able to show me how it could be helpful, and I'm grateful for that. You wouldn't have really wanted to hear a Dharma talk from me 12 years ago. I really don't think so. I'm enough of I think I'm enough of an iconoclast and idol smasher right now. Probably it's about as far as most of you can swallow it, if you even can. I hope you can. My teacher was that way too. that Gurdjieff was that way. That's my lineage. It's a lineage of no lineage. It's a lineage of people who burned the house down. So I'm thinking, where can I intersect with Buddhism in a way that is real to me, completely authentic? Okay, this is not out of the Pali canon, but it is out of Mahayana Buddhism. It's probably the most beloved sutra in Mahayana Buddhism, called the Heart Sutra. Now, I had read the Heart Sutra before I had my Great Awakening, which we're not going to talk about anymore. You can't escape your own story. The best thing you can do is just realize that it's bullshit. It really is. I'm sorry. I don't mean yours, I mean mine. Yours, of course, is true. So I had read the Heart Sutra, but I didn't understand what it meant. I couldn't understand what it meant. It's a kind of koan. It doesn't really make sense if you translate it into ordinary language. Then it goes in one ear, as I say, and out the other. If you try to make logical sense out of it, you can't. And yet, when I understood Walter's words, discovery is unrepeatable, being here, all we see, creates this presence in a stream of living stream of energy. When I understood that, then I understood the Heart Sutra. And I hope to be able to get that across to you in the time that we have. So let me read a bit from the Heart Sutra here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, only the most important section. It goes like this. Form is nothing more than emptiness. Emptiness is nothing more than form. Form is exactly empty, and emptiness is exactly form. All things are empty. Nothing is born. Nothing dies. Nothing is pure. Nothing is stained. Nothing increases. Nothing decreases. So in emptiness there is no form. No feeling. No perception. No thought. No consciousness. There are no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There is no seeing. There is no hearing, no smelling, no tasting, no touching. I hope I have another page here. Something to touch. No touching, no imagining. There is nothing seen, nor heard, nor smelled, nor tasted, nor imagined. There is no ignorance. There is no end to ignorance. There is no old age and death. There is no end to old age and death. There is no suffering. There's no cause of suffering. There's no end to suffering. There's no path to follow. There is no attainment of wisdom, and there is no wisdom to attain. There is no wisdom, no attainment of wisdom, and no wisdom to attain. There's no mind, there's no body. Emptiness is form, and form is emptiness. What can that possibly mean? This is like a joke, a Woody Allen joke. He used to tell, no, it's serious. I'm serious, it's a joke. Woody Allen would tell this story. He would say, if it's true that everything is an illusion and nothing exists, I paid entirely too much for my living room carpet. So, that's right. So what does this mean? How can we sit here in a room full of objects, a room full of people, and say, none of that exists? What can that possibly mean? Okay, as I said, I understood it, bang. That's what really happened. That's the way understanding has to happen. There's no gradual understanding. This is another story we tell ourselves. Understand a little of it now and a little bit more tomorrow. Either get it or you don't. So I'm going to do my best to elucidate it. Maybe someone will get it. If you don't, that's okay. I'll be here next week. Maybe. And then Robert will be back from the mainland and maybe he'll elucidate it. So you may get another shot. But right now, this is the only shot we got. So let's try to get it now today if we can. Okay, it's like this. Imagine a mirror in a frame. An ordinary mirror. I think most of us have it right in the house. If you look at that mirror from the back, what you see is some brown paper and the screw eyes and the wire that you use to hang this on the wall. It's just an ordinary object. But if you look at that mirror from the front, it's entirely different. It's not an ordinary object, it's a magical object. It really is. It's called the magic mirror. Why is it magical? What makes a mirror a magical object? It's like this. Whatever you put in front of that mirror is reflected perfectly. If the mirror is a good mirror, anything that's put in front of it looks just as if it does in the so-called real world. And the mirror is not choosy. It has no discrimination whatsoever. It's a good thing it doesn't, because if I look at myself from the back in the mirror, if the mirror really had discrimination, it might say, you should have done this 20 years ago, Robert. Some of you don't get that? You haven't looked at yourself in the mirror from the back recently. I'm entirely serious, sorry. So the mirror has no discrimination. Whatever is put before it is reflected accurately. No judgment. Yeah? And yet, those things in the mirror are not real exactly. They appear to be real. They seem real enough, but if you try to touch one, you can't. If you wanted to grab one and bring it into this world, you could not. What you see in the mirror is apparent, but not real. It can't be touched. It can't be held. And as soon as if you turn the mirror somewhere else, all of those objects that were in the mirror, they're not there anymore. They're gone. And now there are new things in that mirror. And those new things are no more real than the old things were. They're also just appearances. You all get this? That's clear, yeah? Okay. Now we've got to make a little stretch because I'm going to speak a metaphor. And there's a danger in that. The metaphor, no metaphor is accurate. it's only a suggestion. It's like a finger that points at the moon, yeah? So be careful. Don't take it entirely seriously, but use it to try to understand something that cannot be understood. It's like this. The mind, what we call the mind, or awareness and mind are the same thing, is like a mirror. Wherever I look, things seem to appear. If I put my attention elsewhere, or if my eyes are closed and I think about something else, whatever was there in the mirror, in awareness or in my mind, changes to the new thing. If I look over there, my mind is filled with visual sensations. If I put my attention on my bottom where it contacts the chair here, it's a sensory perception. Now my mind is filled with this sense of pressure. The skin is exquisitely sensitive. If you touch it, you can feel that. But you also may not have that in mind, and then it just disappears. You may not be aware of your own skin right now. If someone jabs a pin in it, yes, you will immediately be aware of that. That will be a new object in the mirror. So you follow this? The mind makes no discrimination. Whatever appears to it is reflected. So this is what Walter was getting at. You see, he says, being here, what we see creates this presence. And the presence is the content of mind. It's not just this coffee cup or this microphone that is a presence in my mind. Robert is a presence in my mind. Now, I spoke to you earlier about how I don't know what I am. And that's true. Robert is not just what he thinks he is. We got that earlier, yes? Well, so this presence called Robert in my mind, I can't touch it. I can't grasp it. And I can't save it or keep it. In the next moment, it's a whole different Robert. There's no continuity to it at all. Whatever arises in mind is there, and in the next moment, it's gone. It's complete impermanence. There is nothing that can be grasped or held. I had a coffee this morning, but I can't have that coffee again. Can't have anything again. All you can have is what's here now, and you can't even have that, because as soon as you become aware of it, it's gone, and we're on to the next moment. And there's no stopping it. No one can stop time. Does that sound okay? Well, it scares the shit out of everyone. And that is why we create the ego. We don't want to just be mind. We want something that we can hold on to. So what we do in the face of this scary impermanence, and I mean, it really is scary. I don't think we can sit here and realize how scary it is. When you hear the ambulance outside going to pick up someone else, maybe you get a little idea, this is pretty scary. This is life. The ambulance will be coming for me one of these days, probably. Or else I'll just have a heart attack and die in the street. Or I'll get sick and suffer for a year and a half and die. We don't like that. Nobody likes it. And so, when that comes into mind, we don't look at that part of the mirror. We immediately fill it with something else. We pave it over. We hold, there's my death in the mirror. See, I say, oh no. Here are my plans. That's much better. I'll fill my mind with my plans. Or I'll have a little sex fantasy. That's always good, see. Or I'll decide that I really need a drink. Where's the next bar? You see, that's the ego. That's the ego. Now, how does this arise? You can't just create something out of whole cloth, after all. Nobody can. Well, when you sit there, meditate, you call it meditating. We'll get to that, I hope. When you sit there, a lot of what we hear when we listen to our own thoughts is in the form of a dialogue. Thinking is dialogic. Robert refers to this in some of his writing about the top dog and the underdog. It's a very interesting concept. I became aware of it not that long ago because Robert talked about it, and it really started me thinking. I'll give you an example. I'll think, I want a beer. I really want a beer. That's one voice. Immediately another voice comes in and says, you know, Robert, you really shouldn't. You've had quite a few already today. Maybe it'd be best to just not have another beer. Well, now there's an argument going on. See, there's the underdog wants the beer. He says, don't spoil my fun. I just want to have a beer, you know, party. And the top dog, which is usually a parental voice, often a parental voice, says, oh, no. Don't drink, meditate. Now I've got an argument going on. The argument is happening in mind. There isn't anything else but mind. It's all mind, yes? But I don't like that. So what I do is I take out the tin snips and I just cut out the part that I like, and I say, this is me. And all the rest of that stuff, the truck outside there, and the guy who's telling me not to have a beer, and this pain I've got, that's not me. Those are just things that are arising. They're happening to me. They're not me. Me is the little victim in here, and all this bad stuff is happening to me, and it's frightening. I got to protect myself. Well, how do I protect myself? Well, I don't want to come apart. So I've got to keep myself together. See, whatever little act I've got in life, spiritual teacher. See, now I'm going to just assume the role. I'll just come on like that. And if somebody tells me, well, Robert, you know, I don't know what you're talking about, I'll say, well, that's because you're stupid. You should buy my videos, you know, study those for 5 years. I don't have anything. Okay, do you understand this? We all do this. I'm not pointing the finger. I do it. We can't help it. You can't make your ego disappear. Ego is a content of mind. It's frightened. That's its job. Its job is to be frightened. It has to be frightened. We teach our children to have a frightened ego. Don't run in the street. Don't say that word. That's a bad word. And et cetera, et cetera. We fill the child with fear and judgment. And we teach the child to use the cookie cutter and cut out an acceptable myself, and that's called the ego. And the rest of the contents of mind is happening to the ego. So now we have the ultimate top dog and underdog situation. We have set this up. I am the underdog, and this cruel world is the top dog. It's happening to me, and I'm trying to tell it all the time. Give me some space. Give me a break. Can't you tell I'm a bit worried? Don't be so hard on me. You see, this is the dialogue. We're constantly in it, whether we know it or not. And there's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. You cannot kill your ego. Nobody can. You may have this fantasy that the Buddha transcended his ego. No. Please, don't make a god out of the Buddha like they did to Jesus. Destroy all that teaching. That teaching was great. You hear that teaching, it's beautiful. But as soon as they say, well, he could do it because, you know, he's the Son of God, That means now I can't do it because I'm not the Son of God. Yes? When you put someone on a pedestal, you destroy that. You may think you're doing someone a favor by putting them on a pedestal. You aren't. You're destroying him or her. Okay. So don't put anything that I'm saying on a pedestal. Just hear it. But also don't translate it into ordinary lingo and deconstruct it. That's not the idea. The idea is to hear it while it's being said. I cannot repeat it. And you either get it now or you get it when Robert comes back. But now is now. Okay, so the mind is everything. The problem with that is that all of those objects in mind can't be touched. We can't hold on to them. Now that's all right about maybe some material object I don't care about, or that I actually dislike, like a truck goes by and well, I'm kind of glad it's impermanent. I wouldn't want to just be hearing that for the rest of my life. But if it's my wife, maybe I don't want that to be impermanent. If it's my house, maybe I don't want that to burn down. But it might. So we're immediately judging all the time. I want this and I don't want that. And when we do that, we're lying. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. Ego wants to imagine that it can do that. It cannot do that. Ego is just a small, sectioned off little part of the mind in which all of that is arising. And it's completely impermanent. It's only there when it arises, and then it's not there anymore, ever again. And then there's a new mind filled with things. So I want to now take a few minutes of meditation again. But this meditation is not the same as the meditation that we did at the beginning, I hope. How could it really be after all that I have said? It's not really a question of just letting things arise and don't hold on to them. That's good. That's a good preparation. It might be good for your health, reduces stress. All of that is fine, and it's a good preparation for what I'm about to suggest to you. But it's not the real meditation. It's a warm-up. I mean this. And I'm not saying this with any disrespect for your meditation practice. I'm glad you have one if you do. I certainly do. Oh, before we get to that, let me go back just to one other thing I wanted to mention. On Tuesday, I had lunch with Stephen Bodian and Robert. And the three of us are all sitting together. And you know, these two guys are noted teachers.